And so, with the 10th episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters called Beyond Logic, the first season comes to a close. And predictably, just go ahead and get right through the spoiler, Leland Shaw seems to have met his demise at the end. But perhaps not. There's no body. He disappears into this vortex as the girls, along with Grandma, who still looks like not a day over 30, escape back to the surface world. And the explanation was there. I thought maybe they're going to do things where there's different jumps in time within the realm. No, there's none of that. It's the gravitational forces. So they give a pretty decent explanation for it, more or less. I mean, the theories about time travel and time displacement and whatnot has to do with the warping of space and whatnot. And it's constituted by gravity, supposedly. And so here you would have the gravitational forces at odds, theoretically, for there to be a hollow world deep down at the center of the Earth. Probably not the case, but for the purposes of this monsters and whatnot, that's where they're going with it. And so that's what you get. You get the rescue there primarily with Leland and the girls. And it's not a bad episode. It's a good little wrap-up of it. It's had its stumbles. But overall, I'm not irritated with the show. However, one of the things I'm guessing might happen for a second season is that Hiroshi becomes the main guy as far as, or takes the position of Leland Shaw. And Leland Shaw is the mysterious missing guy. Where Hiroshi was missing. He's back. He comes home. Kentaro's mother is like, here's your stuff, get out. Off he goes. And that sort of thing. But ultimately, one of the thing of it is for Keiko Miura, I kept trying to pronounce her last name and I probably got it wrong every time, was that for her, in her experience, it's only been over 50, or I think she said 57 days. And yet that means it's been like 50 years. Now, something along those lines. For Leland, it had been 20 years he lost for the brief time he was there, and so on and so forth. So that's why he says, look, we got to get everybody back as soon as possible because we're losing years the longer we stay here. So they find the old craft he's in, and there was a means by which to energize it in order to return them via one of the Titans. And but a bat Titan shows up too soon, causes all kind of disruption and whatnot. And of course, somebody's got to be left behind. It ends up being Leland. Well, he doesn't have to. They tried to save him. Keiko tried to pull him back in, but his weight was causing trouble, so he pulled his hand back and disappeared into the vortex thing they were in, and they went back. They come back and discover they've lost 2 years. So it's been 2 years since Kentaro saw them, but they're back, and that's the setting. The place they arrive at is actually Skull Island. So guess who makes a cameo? That's right, King Kong. Godzilla also appears, and you had to have expected that. He's been seen in the show earlier, and he showed up to deal with the Bat monster in the Titans world, to spare them from that, but not before damage was done to the capsule and whatnot. So, of course, wondered if King Kong would make an appearance, and he did. So this pushes them from 2015 into 2017. So that's where they are time-wise, I believe, for how this narrative is flowing. So I suppose if you go back and check out the MonsterVerse movies, you can figure out where they are. This stuff had been going on because with Monarch, this is obviously Monarch's story, and Monarch was just this mysterious organization within the films, but now there's more of an explanation. The character of Tim, I'm not sure. Well, no, it wasn't him. It was Hiroshi. Seems to have known the John Goodman character of somewhat, because he's the one who's got the tape, or at least he found it. Perhaps that was the. I'm already forgetting exactly, but he made that tape on Skull Island, and it got back to him. Of course, we know what happened to him in that film, but he did make the tape, and so Hiroshi had it, and so that started him on his quest, so on and so forth. Well, when his son comes back, and then Tim joins them, and he says he'd had enough of Monarch's crap, and so he had quit. And him and Kentaro teamed up and joined with his father, Hiroshi. And then we jump back to the world where Leland saves all the ladies and all that sort of stuff, and they escape. And they arrive on Skull Island, and there's Tim and Hiroshi. He reunites with his grandma, and it's all very touching, if odd and stuff. And the performance is well, because at one point the grandma didn't want to leave. She's like, my whole world's gone. She finds out her husband's been dead for years, so on and forth. And now her son is actually seems to be older than her, age-wise and all this stuff. But Leela says, no, I came all this way to get you back. You're coming home. And so the performances between them there was all right. Some of the younger girls was a bit jarring at times. There's too much of this. Well, Kate's really feisty, and there's too many girl bosses in it, and that's a big drag on it. As far as whether or not there'll be this lesbian relationship between her and May, I wouldn't doubt it, which sucks for poor Kentaro, but it's completely unnecessary. I mean, you've already established that Kate is a lesbian and all that. Well, you think that'd be enough? I don't know. But anyway, they had to make a deal with the other evil corporation that's there at the end. So that's the setup going into the next season. The problem is, without the draw of the Russells being both, of course, Kurt Russell and his son Wyatt, it really loses a lot, because other than Godzilla, who was the other great player in this, even though it was only cameos here and there, they were the draw to it. So if they had this deal where there would still be some amount of flashbacks, I mean, for the most part, the young Leland Shaw story is done. But then I suppose there's some other elements they could fit in there for a second season. And drop clues that he's still alive in the underworld of the Titans. So that way, Kurt Russell wouldn't have to commit to a full season again, which for the most part he really didn't this time. It's only 10 episodes, and he did a handful of them. But that might be something they could work out there. And if there's any more stories in the past to tell, it would be, Wyatt doing it. So anyway, there you go. It had some bumps, and there's troubling signs of where it goes after this. But for the crap I've sat through, Monarch hasn't yet deserved a place among that just yet. It's got some damage in there, some problems, but overall, I had fun with it.